Hello friends and Happy New Year! January is usually the time when people make resolutions, New Year's resolutions. I've definitely done that before. I think I started the first time in middle school maybe. This time I've decided I'm not going to do that. Instead of bringing something new to the table, I'm going to bring some takeaways from 2022, aka old stuff, to the table. More specifically, some habits, ideas, and quotes that really helped me in 2022. I wanted to share it with you as well as bring it into 2023 for myself. The first idea that really helped me was striving for progress and not perfection. Another way that I like to think about this is don't let a want for perfection get in the way of progress. Because I've noticed that sometimes a fear of things not being perfect can really get in the way of creating any output at all. And it's mainly driven by this fear of making mistakes. But then, do people ever really grow without making mistakes? I guess it is somewhat possible, is it? Anyway, mistakes or things that don't work out exactly as we wanted them to are a great way to grow, and they've been really helpful for me in the past year. Because then you can literally collect data on what does and doesn't work, and then figure out what needs to be adjusted. An example I can think of is when learning a language. I remember the fear of not being able to speak with perfect grammar used to stop me from speaking it at all. When I was in primary school or somewhere around that age, I used to get kind of upset and offended. Yeah, offended is the word. I used to get offended when an adult, mainly my parents, would try and correct my Russian, my Chinese when I'm speaking. But then I remember distinctly at one point telling them that I want them to point out these mistakes. Because if they don't point out these mistakes, how am I supposed to ever know that I'm making them? And how am I ever supposed to improve? I am the sort of person where I'd always rather know so that then I can improve for next time. I kind of log these mistakes in a little section in the library in my brain somewhere. When it accumulates, it then becomes natural to just avoid that mistake entirely. This may not be the right approach for everyone because I think it's important with something like a language to first get the person speaking. So always correcting them might actually be off-putting. But it's something that worked for me when I was a kid, and it's something that I now try to implement in all my other modes of work and whatever it is that I'm trying to get better at. Basically, all of this is to say having super thick skin has been really helpful for me. Putting a bigger emphasis on the term work in progress. Now, on the surface, this might seem similar to the previous point, but it's actually quite different. To me, the idea is about the way that I set goals. Don't get me wrong, I love setting goals. It's a great way for being able to focus on the right things and decluttering all the things that are not really as important. But I also believe that goals should always be adjusting to us and the lives that we're leading, because we're always changing and so are our lives. To me, it also means that the goal should never really be the main purpose for why I'm doing something. It's something that helps provide a guideline and a structure, but the main part for me is actually the process and what I learn about myself during this whole experience. An example that is relevant for me is weightlifting. I love weightlifting. It's something that I got really into from, I think college? Yeah, it must have been during my university year. And last year, I got a personal best in chest presses. My upper body has always been weaker in comparison to my lower body, so it felt like a pretty big deal to me. But then I realized that these numbers of what I'm able to lift can go up and down a little bit randomly because they're affected by so many different factors. For example, how I slept, whether or not I'm stressed, and whether or not I lifted something super heavy very recently. What's more important is that I continually try to work on myself in whatever way that is. And weightlifting is just one of the ways in which I like to challenge myself, aka there's no single end goal. I am always something that I'm working on. It's like the idea of going to a mental dojo where I can consistently train myself. Yeah, I like that. My next point was something that was a bit of a revelation specifically to last year. It was being able to mindfully try and build the life that I want. Another way to think about this is being mindful about what you say yes to, because your time is valuable. Saying no has always been hard, but the end result is usually getting either super stressed or burnt out. So what's been really helpful to me is taking a step back and then asking myself, what sort of life do I want to build? And will doing this thing help me get closer or further away from it, both in the short term and the long term? And this leads me to a sort of subsection to mindfully do more of what I love. I grew up with the mindset that short-term suffering is worth it because it leads to long-term gains. And in some aspects, this is still true. For example, with studying, the short-term suffering of maybe studying up some boring material can lead to more opportunities. But I ended up using this mindset for way too many parts of my life, and I'd end up putting off the things that I wanted for some future life that I may not even end up living. So all of this is to say, live more mindfully and make sure that what you do is somehow, in some way, helping you lead the life that you want. I really think they should teach this next point in schools, which is love and communication need constant practice, like with music, the instruments, and with languages, as well as fitness and sports. Love and communication requires constant attention because we're always changing, as are our environments and the people that we're loving and communicating with. So it's like a software that needs updating every so often, or a muscle that needs conditioning and training and stretching in order to stay strong. Learn to distinguish when I can and cannot trust my feelings. Our feelings don't always serve us well. I know mine don't. For example, stress. A way that I've been working on trying to deal with stress is by using words to separate myself from the feelings that are causing my stress. And this is something that I came across on Instagram. I think one of my friends shared it on her stories. First, you say, I feel stressed, which is what you're feeling in that moment. And then you change that sentence into, I am thinking that I am stressed. It kind of separates you ever so slightly from the first sentence. And then the next one after that is, I am observing that I am thinking that I am stressed. This gives yet another step of separation between the initial feeling that I had of being stressed and where I am observing it. This definitely takes practice, as this doctor said, but this separation thing, I think it really helps because it's almost as though you take the feeling out of you and then you place it there and you're kind of looking at it and it is part of you, but it's not really part of you. And you're kind of just watching it as opposed to really embodying it. It helps take me out of a hole that I've kind of dug for myself and look at things more objectively with fewer feelings and emotions involved. Rest and relaxation is just as important as being productive. I think moving from Hong Kong and getting COVID, amongst other things, were very big reminders that I need to learn how to relax better and listen to my body. After getting COVID, I truly overestimated my body's ability to recover, and I jumped straight back into doing things. I didn't go out and infect people, but I just got straight back into whatever work it was that I was doing, and that did not serve me very well because I think I ended up getting sick basically twice. And it was very frustrating, but then I realized that my frustration was because I felt like I wasn't able to do the things I wanted to do. And then I realized that in order to get back into my normal state, I need to let my body heal and relax. Otherwise, it ends up being this vicious cycle where not knowing how to relax and switch off the mind and just, being kind of at peace with yourself, it keeps me up at night. And then if I don't sleep and rest well, my body doesn't function at its optimum condition. And if it doesn't, then it of course affects my productivity. So it makes sense that to make the productivity part better, I just need to let myself relax better. Now it's easier said than done because I've never really thought that it was something that you need to learn, but I'm definitely going to be taking that into 2023 and working on it further. So these are the 6 ideas that I'm taking from my 2022 and bringing them into my 2023, because I think these are things that have either served me really well in the past year, or they are realizations that I've had that I think would be really beneficial for me to get better at. Anyway, let me know if there are any ideas that have served you really well in the past year, or maybe realizations that you've had that you want to work on in the coming year. Thank you so much for watching, and in case I haven't said it, I am extremely grateful for every single one of you, and I'll see you next time.